Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Let me see something. Here we go again. Really sorry for this, guys. Hope you're back online. Let me test my chats. It seems to be working. Good faith. Please do me a favor and call me on my private line. I want these brethren to know that it actually works. This is my third attempt today. Third attempt. I'm going to get the Odyssey online, I promise. So give me a call. Okay. Good faith, you here?
Yes, I'm here and I can hear you fine. 5 by 5.
We have strength in the Lord. Yes.
Amen.
And we do pray for all those poor people who have. We hope that God is there with his hand to help them. What's going on in the world. But this was all predictable to a point. At any rate, did you hear my sermon about Mark today?
No.
I read the story about the rich man who wanted to find out a way to go through and get an eternal life. And
Yeah.
Jesus went.
The guy with needle.
Right. You know what the eye of needle is?
Yeah.
You do. Of course you do. This gentleman is extremely educated, way more than I am in terms of the Bible. But he also understands that the reason why Jesus used those terms is because that specific section, like I said, a camel has to have everything taken from it, has to get down on its knees and crawl through that eye, which means nothing can come with it. Okay.
Yep. Sorry.
And I didn't see any money in my or my wallet or any of my earthly possessions when I was on that light beam. Yes.
I'm talking about when he died, came back to life.
Yes, I was dead for. I found out from the official. I was dead for over 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me,
I've discussed that pretty extensively.
Well, I was. Again, he sent me back. So, and I've been graced every single day with 2 grandsons and your friendship and everybody else's friendship here and your viewership and everybody else is tuning in and sharing and liking this video. Very important. Are there any other questions that you wanted to get scientifically or otherwise about what's going on and why this Ukraine thing is happening and what's going to follow? Are you there, my friend? I'm talking to you.
Yeah, no, I have no questions. No, I'm just waiting.
Okay.
I have full faith and trust in you, and then what we're all contending with at this time in our history and lifetime. Yep.
Now, Good Faith has actually met me, okay, and he'll tell you with no qualms that I tell the truth. That's probably the reason why my channel's been interrupted 3 times today. The threat of my wife is why I keep able to get a socket and transmit. By the way,
Yeah.
he's met my wife also, and he'll tell you that's the reason why as well.
Yeah, we've had dinner together. Robert had more respect for Robert than just about anybody else I know, and we were definitely on the same level. It's very difficult for what we do to have people understand what we do, why we do it, how we do it. And we are givers, not takers. That's what the word joy means. Jesus first, others second, ourselves last, you. And that's how we're supposed to live our life. If we lived their life that way, we wouldn't have the problems we're in the world today. Jesus first, others second, yourself last. And if we live our life that way, we'd all be much better off.
Yes.
Rob and I live our life that way.
Well, he's our king, and we're his constituents.
That's right. Only king. Yeah, that's right.
So we're just trying to get people on the other side of the wall with us.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, God bless, my friend. Thank you very much for calling me.
Yeah, no problem, Robin.
Max will say hi.
We'll talk soon. Bye.
There are people who are colorblind. Okay. There are people who are colorblind. Okay. There are people who are colorblind. Okay. Okay. So, I got something for you, Max. Come on. Come on up here. Come on. Now, it's sad to say, got my channel back, but I'm going to be gone for about 2 weeks. Okay. I might be able to give you a live report. Might. Okay. So, are there any questions that you have for me? And you should truly know that I think that the most important thing for us definitely is our energy independence. Now, this whole thing happened before. Actually, you're not going to believe this, but it happened last time. I think it was 48. I'm not swearing to this. I think it was 48 hours after the last Olympics during Obama 2014. Did Putin cut off and take over Crimea, right? And the oil prices went up to $140 a barrel. Okay. I mean, this is what he does. Now, of course, Putin says he's going in to get rid of the neo Nazis and all of the corruption and whatnot. Well, I think the label is wrong, but there's no question that there is corruption. But he's got like 12 pipelines in there that, you know, not to mention other types of things. The thing is that you ready for this? I mean, America itself broke a whole bunch of agreements and treaties that Clinton signed in 1993 with the Ukraine. The whole purpose was they made a bargain with Clinton that if you give up your nuclear weapons, we're going to do this for you, protect you from this exact thing from happening. I put it to you that if the Ukraine still had those nuclear weapons, that this would not be happening. What does that say to Iran, who says that they need to have a nuclear weapon? What does that say to North Korea, that they need to have a nuclear weapon? What does that say to any country that wants weapons of mass destruction? What does it say to other countries that we see, that we knew that this was going to happen after the Olympics ended? And what else is on the table, like Taiwan? And I put it to you again, the big thing about Taiwan is the 5 nanometer technology. The fact that Taiwan has become the Silicon Valley, which used to be in San Francisco, and it used to be um, in 1985. That's where all the chips were made. I mean, there was a James Bond movie made about that as well. I think Christopher Walken was in it. So today, well, yesterday, the president got on the air. Do you know what a paper tiger is? And he came off not only as a paper tiger, but extremely, extremely weak. To where that he said to Putin basically in these words, "Stop that! Don't do that! That's just harsh. It's harsh and it's hurtful, and you're going to get some consequences. We're going to wait and see." I'll tell you what would have made a difference if he got on the air and said, "I'm opening up the Keystone Pipeline. I'm undoing everything I did on January 20th. I'm making us energy independent, and we're going to support Europe with fresh, clean, liquefied natural gas. I'm going to do a incredible Manhattan Project program on it tomorrow." That would have done something. Instead, the NATO countries such as Germany and others are so dependent, like Hungary, on energy from Russia. Switzerland comes to mind also. Why isn't Switzerland getting their energy from Norway? Why isn't Germany getting their energy from Norway? Why are they not getting energy from us? Liquefied natural gas is an extremely clean product. This world carbon is not, the CO2 did not cause um, the melting of the last ice age. Okay, that's a fact. CO2 levels 100,000 years ago were higher than they are now. And that was the start of the last ice age. Did Fred Flintstone leave his frigid air conditioner on too long? Did Ford and Toyota melt the last ice age over 14,000 years ago? The sun, the orbits, volcanism, asteroids. That's what governs the planet. Now, does that mean that we don't need to get off oil? Does that mean that we don't need to get off that? No, it means we need to get off chemical energy. Why? It pollutes the air, it pollutes the land. Big reason. It's way too expensive, real expensive. So what do? You don't go to a less efficient energy, such as solar and wind. Solar is only efficient in space. And don't say, well, let's put a whole bunch of solar planes up there and then beam it to Earth. Yeah, um, it it doesn't work because even if it costs nothing to put that up there, it only lasts about 25 years. So that's a problem. The solution has been around since 1947. Okay, Alan Weissman wrote a paper on it in 1957. He did the first tests at Oak Ridge Labs with a molten salt reactor, the hottest, by the way, reactor that is ever running as a test in Oak Ridge, and it worked for 14 years. It was fully functioning. Yes, there were things to fix and problems to work out, but it would have worked. Okay. It was 98% efficient. Why? Because a fission nuclear reactor, okay, this is a molten salt reactor. The nuclear reactor is a million times more energy than a simple chemical hydrogen bomb energy. Okay. Million times. That's what we should be going to. Okay. We can't get there right away. Even if we had, which Trump was working on, the nuclear reactors, it would still take 5 years to implement logistically and get them distributed all over the country and then export that all over the world. It would take time to implement that technology. Meanwhile, the stepping stone is, of course, the cleaner forms of um, carbon is natural gas, liquid propane, diesel, and the like. Okay. There's not enough lithium on this planet to make electric cars. Electric cars are only 37% efficient the way they stand now. Electric cars will not work unless you have super conductivity at room temperature. When you have that, you will have 100% efficient motors. You will have a supercapacitor, which is 100% efficient at storing the entire amount of energy you need to go 500 miles, and it'll do it in 5 minutes. However, again, where are you going to get that 70% load that you're adding to the present electrical grid for that power? Okay. The infrastructure, the cart cannot be put before the horse, and it must be established. It took 45 years to establish petrochemical transportation in the United States to make the transformation from horse and buggy and animal power to make it all the way to mechanical chemical devices. It took 45 years to make that change. Now, we could have made this change with these technologies in 5 years, but number one, it wasn't addressed as it should have been in front of the United Nations, which is number one problem in the world is the sun. Number two problem is volcanoes. And number three problem is finding the holy grail of tech. The holy grail of tech is fission and fusion, photon computers, and room temperature superconductors. That is what should have been put forth in front of all the people of the world. That's what should be worked on. That should be what's important. What we have now is tyranny run amok. Okay, you have tyranny, and it's getting worse because now Putin is going to export his tyranny just like it was exported during the Cold War, such as Venezuela, other types of countries which are ripe for profits and takeover because the oil is going to go higher, right? Oil is going to see 150, $160 a barrel because Biden is not going to make us energy independent again. Everybody has to sit down with a pen and paper. They have to write a letter to the White House. They have to say, make us energy independent again. There are clean energies on the horizon if they're worked on. Flybe Energy had a product. Biden canceled it. Nobody talks about it. They built a manufacturer base and everything else. They were ready to do finish the testing. It was all ready to go. It's very frustrating as a scientist to see this kind of human waste. How much talent was lost yesterday on both sides of the fence, both in Russia, in helicopter pilots, and other types of people and personnel, and in Ukrainians. What a sin! What a horrible sin! And this is all on Biden watch. Yes, Biden, who didn't learn, and who Bates said he was as wrong as you could get on past policies underneath Obama. They said themselves that sanctions were not working. They both came to that conclusion. And then you have from Biden yesterday saying that the sanctions have to take time to work. They didn't work. There was an invasion. It's still happening. Energy is the real money. Everything depends on energy. Everything. If you want to grow food, you need energy. If you want to make fertilizer, you need energy. If you want transportation, you need energy. If you want refrigeration, you need energy. Tell me anything that is not energy dependent. So when I see energy prices go through the roof and go up, and I told you that no matter what it is, it has minimally a 23% energy component. This one has a more. This one has more. By the way, you can use this as a refrigerant in R12 devices. It's safe to use. That's an old type compressor that uses mineral oil. R134A will interact with that mineral oil. Can't use it. But this has no such interaction. And actually, it is, if you look at it, it's a defined HFC. Dust off, yeah. I actually purchased a device from Amazon that actually hooks up to the can, pierces the can, and I hook it up to my dials and instruments. And you're gonna say, why do you have such a device? My boat um, has an aqua fridge that is from 1989. The last time I serviced it was in 1995, and to change it, it's a big pain in the butt, right? Because and there's no reason why it works great. I mean, well, it doesn't work now because it needs to be recharged. Okay. Um, and yes, you have to vacuum it out. You have to put in the proper amount of refrigerant, and you got to know what you're doing, right, to do this. Okay. But um, it works. It also works on classic cars. If you have a classic car and you have an F type compressor, this will also work. Okay. And unlike some other formulas they have today, which is basically like a modified propane. I can't even imagine them using that in cars today, but they actually do, which is basically no real chemically, it's not very different from propane. And I wouldn't want propane in an internal combustion car. Yeah. Well, you have to understand, how did Hunter get all that stuff from the Ukraine? How did he get on boards of energy? Remember the big thing about this, energy at the end of President Trump's term was cheap, really cheap. 80% of the world taxes for the elites that they skim off is made from energy. So if you have cheap energy, their taxes are not that good. But if it's expensive, do you think that they're bothered? They make more money on these taxes. Look into it. Than the oil companies do. The oil companies have to get it out of the ground. They have to get it to the refineries. They got to refine it. Then they got to get it to you. Okay. And it's taxed every single step of the way. And they have liabilities every single step of government has no government's just collecting the money. Government's like, "Huh, okay. And with so much taxes collected on all this stuff, how come I'm paying more in taxes now than ever? There's gambling in every single state, just about. We were told the school taxes are going to go down. Our kids would have new computers. Yeah, that's not. So somebody's getting all this money. Mega Millions, the lotteries, right? Same crap. I don't have any thumbs up here, folks. I'm looking at 22 thumbs up. Even more. Need this video to be shared. I need this video to go viral. And remember, as I told you, I speak the truth. So if you're part of my Patreon, you can call me up today. I will answer the phone so that you don't have to be put on the air, but you can ask me a question. Okay. I should check my Patreon page, right? Check it and see if there's any questions. How are you guys doing? Come on, let's get some chats up here. How are you guys doing? Yeah. Well, we know about the United Nations because a person um, wrote me that since Ukraine has not applied for border registration since 1991. Yeah. Well, the point is that it's in the bag, right? I'll show you an interesting video or a picture, which I thought was extremely funny. This one's called "Dirty Hairy Legs." You guys see that? It's pretty funny. Yeah, you can see that Putin is just so moved to he's so moved to he's so moved and so didn't you see now this all came about and was enabled first from the energy policy, second from the Afghanistan Tabasco, and then okay, so now this is and also with Iran, right? This motivates Iran. This motivates China. Um, this also motivates the Soviet Union again to exist. Okay, that's what Russia. That's what he wants. So the sooner he can make this happen as a reality, the better he's going to look to his people. And because again, our Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the platforms are basically not taking down the propaganda that's coming out from his country and not telling about the truth of what's really going on. Okay. The orphanage, the other atrocities, just like they weren't talking about the atrocities up in Canada, the fact that the police were enjoying what they were doing. So, any other questions? Grace Girl asks, "Do I believe the fact that we are going to see World War III?" Well, technically, we already saw World War III. Okay, you're basically asking us if we're going to see World War IV. Um, essentially, that was put on with the first bioweapon called Charlie Oscar Romeo Victor Indiana Delta 19. The deployment of that and how it affected us enabled the Charlie Oscar Utah poll to happen for a guy who won the election from his basement, right? His basement. And as you can see, he's just so popular that any of his meetings where he had this parking lot car meeting and this other thing, yeah. So the reality is, I blame Trump for this in a lot of respects. Oh, yes, because he saw the problems after the 2016 election. He should have went public with John Jr. immediately. Immediately. He should have then identified problems, the big problems that we wrote him and told him about, and then gone down the list step by step. Now, I'm not judging, but he trusted people who he thought were noble people, who he thought had his back. They were Marines, they were leaders. He didn't understand how far the corruption had gotten to. He didn't understand how far and how many people were affected. The media is not reporting on the indictments. They're not reporting on the true scope of what actually went on with Russia. That's also a part of this as well. Now, X22 and others are reporting the totally wrong thing. They're saying that Trump and Putin are plan this because of what they discovered and all kinds of stuff. And this is all very, very few things of what he's saying is actually true. Okay. The big thing is that Russia or Putin is looking to seek an advantage, and Russia is playing chess. There's no ifs, ands, or buts that Russia is intelligent. Trump has said this on many occasions. There is no question that this man is intelligent. He used to work and at the KGB. So from his side of the fence, he's looking at what's really going on. That there's a corruption within the Ukraine, that NATO is going to be a problem, that instead, you see, what really should have happened was a hand should have been reached out in 1989, and Bush 41 should have went to Gorbachev and said, okay, we want a 98-year lease on your Tundra, and we're going to build a train line from the United States to that tundra. In addition, we're going to bring materials and corporations and stuff like that. In addition, let's go back to the moon on a joint Russia American venture. In addition, let's plan on going to Mars on a joint. Anything to employ those scientists and stop those people from going to other countries and giving them a weapons program and everything else. This is what vision is about. Okay. No, that's not what happened because Bush 41 is CIA. That's not what CIA wants. CIA wants the Cold War, wants the teetering of things, wants all that kind of stuff. They want their black budgets. They want, they want, they want, they want. They play to a different fiddler. They don't care about the welfare of man. The fact that, who cares about the population? Who cares about that? Let's go. There's so much real estate out there that's ready to be occupied. So much stuff. Is it ever considered? Is it ever weighed? No. Instead, we have the Pike Monument, which wants to take the population down to 500 million people. This is the evil that you have with these people because they bought the big lie from Satan himself. And what they don't realize is that Satan wants none of it. He does not want any of us to succeed. He wants us all dead. He doesn't want us. He wants us dead. He wants to hurt our Father in heaven, our Creator, as much as possible. That's what he wants to do. There's nothing that human beings can't accomplish if we have faith, if we stick together, if we use our shared intellect for the better. Nothing. Okay? There's nothing that we can't accomplish. And nobody would want, if you get the Holy Grail of tech, you'll have two classes of people. You'll have a class of people who sit around all day, do the big M, and watch video games and play whatever. Fine. Then you'll have people like my sons. Okay? People like my sons. Okay? They're never going to sit around. They're never going to sit on their laurels. It's not in their blood. Okay? They want to go around. One guy, he's a father of two. He still wants his hair on fire. Okay? The other guy, he wanted to be a millionaire before he was 30. He succeeded. That's what he wanted to do. And what's he doing? He's helping lots of people. He's giving a lot of people peace of mind. I haven't lost faith in Trump. I haven't lost. Um, the problem with Biden is that he's defanged our military and said that the number one threat to the world is global warming. That's no. We're going into an ice age. Listen to me very careful. What they don't show you, what they didn't show you this past 2 years, is the record cold temperatures around the world. Oh yeah, there was some record heat temperatures, but way more record cold temperatures were broken. Way more. Okay, you will have those extremes with an up and coming ice age. And yes, we're headed for an ice age. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay. They got rid of officers, really good people, because they didn't want to take a vaccine, or they said they had white privilege, or whatever. Okay. Let me tell you something. The military is probably the most nondescript, non discriminating, non sexist, non racist place ever. Back in 1950, my father was the first man to room with another African American officer. His name was Charles Johnson. Okay. Both of them were lunatic, crazy MFs. Okay. Didn't matter. One was white, didn't matter one was black. They're both nuts. Okay. Yes, that's my opinion. And if you looked at their record, you'd say, these guys are crazy. Okay. Now, they were both religious and all that stuff. They both developed the Wild Weasel program. Okay. That's why I'm saying that. Sam, that's what his call it, Sam, because he used to fly on purpose over SAM sites and did this like weird turn to the left, which actually kept going to a turn to right, and the missile would just miss him. Lunatic. Okay. Brave, but crazy. They're the only ones that made it back from their tours. Okay. All the men that were in that squadron, they're the only two guys who went back. My father, and also he went on some occasions, but my father did all of them because he was commander of the squadron. He went to all those widows and children. It weighed very, very heavily on my father. He had survivor's guilt, no question. And eventually he got caught too. When he died, he was less than 64, 65 pounds. They had maggots eating the gangrene in his legs. He couldn't see. He could barely breathe. He looked like he was 97 years old, a skeleton wrapped in skin. I saw that disintegration in less than 3 years. And what do I say killed him? The wars killed him. No question about it. Did I feel the loss? Well, not right away. I was actually happy. Here I am, 17 years old, and I'm happy that my father died. I knew where he was going, but more importantly, he wasn't suffering anymore. It didn't occur to me, really, till about 2 months later. I came home from school. I wanted to tell him about what happened. And instead of him being in that chair, he was gone. He was not in that chair. He was not in his lazy boy. That was hard. You never really get over the loss. You only learn to realize the gift of their knowledge and their things and their teachings. You know that you're going to see them again. No. Thoughts on Pluto. Pluto's a planet. I don't go with this whole thing. I still think it's a planet. I don't like the way they changed the definition. Yes, I know, but I still consider it a planet. Um, but actually, Trump is really good in chess. His son is exceptional. His son made grandmaster before the kid was 14. So, if you should want anybody to be president in the future of this country, I don't think he'll do it, but his son is, oof, wow, Baron, yeah. We need more than Trump. We need a president that can be in the White House for 2 consecutive terms, and then their vice president be in the White House for 2 consecutive terms. We need a full 16 years in order to make the true transition to the true 21st century. Um, that's what we need to do. We need to educate the public worldwide on the true threat to life on this planet, which number one is the sun. The sun will take out Putin. The sun will take out GGP. The sun will take out everybody. Nobody will be left taunting their high technology, taunting whatever in any place, shape, or form once a Carrington event type solar flare hits us. That's a fact. Nobody is going to get away from the super volcano that's going to go off eventually. Probably, anywhere between 25 and 150 years, if not sooner. And by the way, there's 3 of them in the world. We have the technology now to harness them, to prevent them from going off, and to actually use them, exploit them for energy. Green, true green energy. Okay, would power literally a third of this country if we harnessed the Texas-sized magma field underneath Yellowstone. Okay, it just takes money and vision, and it's preventative. It's like taming the Niagara, okay, or taming the Colorado River, or like taming anything. It would have been um, Trump's Hoover Dam, as it were. That's not going to happen now. Everybody, sees Trump as a. I'm not putting a fault on Trump. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying because of the facts that Biden is president now, and because of the fact that the election system has to be totally revamped, totally redone. A young man, a young veteran, a young person has to do it. And Ron DeSantis comes to mind. Um, there are several leaders that come to mind. Um, there's both in every shape and form. There's good people out there who do have good vision. Okay, Ron DeSantis, I only know because of the fact he had to stand up to some extreme left principled people who took vacation in his state because he had the lowest COVID rates, even though he had the most freedoms for his population. Think about that. Why? Because he was actually basing his thing on science. Science that says if you're sick, you quarantine them. If you're not sick, you don't put not sick people into quarantine. Now, something else happened with this invasion. cyber hits and cyber stuff all over the internet have been done, and are coming more to here. I think that personally, right now it's a test, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was coordinated to which that comms and other types of communication will be blacked out on purpose. Another reason to why you should get on my Odyssey page, because the only way they can block my Odyssey, by the way, they can block Rumble, by the way, they can block all these other platforms. They cannot block Odyssey. Okay, can't block it. It's blockchain. If you block the internet, is the only way you can block blockchain. Okay, which is the basis of how the internet works. The internet was designed to survive nuclear bombed cities. So if there's any internet out there, Odyssey will work because it's blockchain. You're putting video data and essentially cyber currency. That's how it works. That's why you have to buy a specific amount of coinage or make it. Okay. Mine it, make it, whatever you want to talk about to make a video. It's odyssey.com and the channel's Ball Omni. BALLOMNI. Okay. The channel. Now, there's all my videos that have been deleted off of this channel, like 400 of them, are there on Odyssey, and more that I couldn't put here. Videos that you can only see on that channel, which really tell you really what's going on. Stuff about 9/11, stuff about what really happened with the Charlie Oscar Romeo Victor Indiana Delta 19, right? Where it was actually and how it was deployed and what actually happened when it was deployed. Who knew? Okay. I was trying to do my first live broadcast today from that platform. I have not, it would seem that their software app is not very Mac friendly. Okay. So I'm going to try again, but I'll try from my cell phone. I think I'm gonna try that for my cell phone. I think it'll probably work for my cell phone. It'll cost me money because I have to buy those coins in order to do that transmission. Okay. God's gonna save Ellen Jones. Listen to me very carefully. If you believe in the Bible, God is going to save the world. Satan is bound for 1,000 years. Remember, the person who wrote this could not count to a billion. Okay. So I wouldn't put restitution on the limit of 1,000. Okay. So just put it as a long time, right? But what has to happen first? Ooh, a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff has to happen, right? If we look at Exodus 16, and you also have to understand the Antichrist has to come too. Exodus 16, first bowl, lonesome soul. Second bowl, the seas that turns blood. Third bowl, water turned to blood. All these bowls. Okay. Fourth bowl, men are scorched. All that stuff has to happen. Why is were you sheeping? You were sheeping? Were you sheeping? That's my little doggy. Yeah, I can't. Mary Stinson. Yes, correct. and Prescott Bush um, funded the November, Indiana. Um, I'll put it this way: it'd be better if I say Harry, Indiana, Lima, Tango, Echo, Romeo regime. Okay, and Germany also look to Ford for doing that as well. Okay, a lot of the engines from uh, came from Ford in the beginning. These people were just consumed with themselves about um, money. Now, if you people listen to me, okay, did you people stop buying this stuff when I told you when it was only $11? Huh? $11. This is 24.50 today. 24.50. So it increased over double, and it's going to go up more. Okay, you can't eat it, but I think that it's a good long-term investment. The best short-term investment is all your consumables, food. Remember, I told you guys to get food. I saw this all going to happen. Okay, this whole Ukraine business was set up last March. He's been putting troops in there since last March. Okay. And I knew as soon as he shut down the Keystone Pipeline, which is 800 something thousand barrels of oil, and he started importing oil from Russia. Yeah. 350, 400,000 barrels a day importing from Russia. Russia. How come CNN didn't tell you that? How come these other media giants didn't tell you Biden was doing that? He's all worried about global warming, but then instead of buying our stuff where it's cleaner, no, get it from Russia because it has to be transported across the Atlantic. You know how much fuel it takes to do this? Okay, transportation. You know what kind of fuel bunker fuel is that is in these oil tankers that actually move that oil? Did you ever notice? Do you know that it has to be heated to 95 degrees Celsius before they can even put it into the diesel engines to burn it? And it's the dirtiest SOB stuff you've ever seen in your life. Do they think about that? Did they tell you that? Okay. They don't tell you that. Did they tell you how much energy it costs to make a Tesla battery? How much physical watts that went into making that battery from the lithium to the iron, that's right, iron, to the actual manufacturing of the battery and the substrate, to putting it together, to the aluminum chassis. Aluminum, by the way, is one of the most electric intensifications that you need to take bauxite and make aluminum. Okay. 60% of all the electricity demand in Australia is from the production of aluminum. Do they talk about that? No. Do they talk about the actual manufacturing of the car? No. Do they talk about the fact that when Obama had this whole plan, junk cars and all this other stuff, that he was actually creating and destroying and making more pollution by doing so? By taking an existing car that was 20 years old, there was a certain amount of oil that went into the manufacture of that car, certain amount of energy that went into the manufacture of that car. The longer that you have that car in place, actually doing whatever it's going to do as a machine, the more green that car over time, and it has diminishing results, is going to yield you. Case example, my truck. My truck is a 2002 E350. I've over time I've put about $19,000 into it rebuilding. I put new injectors, bigger turbo, all box, Bilstein shocks, things like this. Okay. The last time, and I'm taking it again down to my son, I was getting on the highway at 63 miles an hour. I was getting about 32 miles to the gallon. Now, if I'm driving 80 miles an hour, no. Okay. I get about 19, maybe. It's like I'm towing. I get basically the same mileage I would be if I'm towing a big trailer. But when I moved my son in his car and everything down there, and I was only going 60 miles an hour, and I went to this. That was almost 23,000 pounds total between the trailer and me. I got 19 miles per gallon, which is 3 times the mileage that another diesel engine, new one, in its same class, would get because of the amount of particular pollution, urethra, everything else that's used in the system. Yeah, that particular filter that you think is stopping that black soot from going out the tailpipe, that's a lie. It's gathering up in a canister, and then at an appropriate moment, the energy goes into regen. It squirts fuel into that canister and burns it with a catalyst at a very, very high temperature. So you don't see that CO2 come out the pipe, but it actually is burning 3 times more fuel than my car does. Where you might see some black smoke if I slam on the fuel right away, which I never do. Why? I don't want to see a so-called coal roll out my exhaust pipe. Hold on a second. Bob here. Yeah. Oh, this is a spam call. I'm not interested. Thank you very much. Ah, thought it might have been one of my patrons who I left my number for. No. Putin is not liberating Ukraine. No. No. Um, they had a free election. The president was very popular, unlike other presidents who you see leave the country with money bags of money. They get holed up in some hotel and they make all these speeches from a distance. No, this guy and his family went back. Yeah, no, no. This is not going to go the way they think it's going to go. Okay. Yeah, were there bad operators in that country? Absolutely. Were they in there with Biden's people and Obama's people? Yeah, they were. No question about it. Okay. Anytime you have that much money and corruption and energy and everything else, yeah, yeah. I get somebody on the phone. Rick Riley's this spam goes. Um, now there is some truths. The places that were pinpointed attacked and missiles were attacked, all places of Brava, Indiana, Oscar facilities that were put into place by certain entities, which were the same ones that built the Wutan labs. That's just coincidence, right? So, in that term, when he says Neo, I think that's what he's specifically referring to, right? Because that goes back to Bear Corporation, who used to build um, the stuff for the showers in Germany. But the leader, who is a Jew, okay, no, okay. But just like under Trump, is there a deep state and a lot of corruption and everything else? Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. But the reality is that this guy was making strides, um, and I think that ultimately, um, he would have rooted out a lot of corruption. Well, yeah, but he didn't get surely the problem with Putin's speech is this. Okay, he is a KGB person. KGB um, hates the Nazis, just like the Bolsheviks hated, certain amounts of communism. But the reality is that you could say the Fords, Bushes, and other people, right? If you really know history, you'll understand. So if they supported and funded the regime, if they're supporting and funding other types of things that are going on, and what do they all want? They want oil to be at it's incredible. Let's look at the economies. Um, Really, Russia has an economy smaller than the state of Texas. In realities, the things that Russia was doing and Trump was keeping sanctions on was trying to get them into the 21st century and trying to stop the kind of things that were happening because he's not for his people either. He is for one thing only, and don't ever think he's not. Putin is for power. Putin is for his own reflection in a mirror. That's all he cares about. Okay? He doesn't care about what he says he cares about. That's the propaganda. So if he did, he wouldn't be doing it this way. No. I mean, you think that they're not open to the science of the fact of what the sun's really doing? They all are open to that science. So when you see leaders ignore those facts, then you have to say to yourself, well, how come they are ignoring those facts when they're facts? They must have been told and have another plan to where they feel that they're going to be safe and you're not. And thus it's going to work to their advantage. Okay? Nope. Not going to work to their advantage. You don't fear anything, Rick. Respect. I respect a fire, and I don't stick my hand on my wood stove without grabbing my leather glove because I know that my wood stove is hot. Okay, so I don't fear it, but I respect it. I don't underestimate that gentleman. Okay, I don't insult myself by saying this and saying these untruths. No, he is a dictator. There's no ifs, ands about. He is no different than past strong Soviet leaders, and no less vulnerable to others who are around him, which makes him also for his actions, right? So he has limited things that he can do. Right now, by his own ruble, everything's about the petrodollar people. He's already made SDR agreements. The one thing that Biden is not sanctioning is energy, oil. That's really Russia's really only product of export is oil. They make all their money from. So that's not going to be effective, which means stop it. Stop it. Please stop it. It's sexist. I'm surprised that Biden didn't up again and said he was racist, sexist. He's not recognizing the 101 sexes in New York. That's very important. He's not recognizing that. He's not recognizing all that stuff. Yeah, he's not, or the people trading. You're not recognizing it. Yeah, yeah, not recognizing that. Yeah, okay, well, that's a problem. Yeah. Well, um, as far as Hillary goes, what did she do? Okay, I mean, what she did was she turned around and made up a whole bunch of stuff, which I don't know if it was originally her idea. She had people that she paid for to come up with this, but those dossiers were used to basically cause Trump two impeachments essentially, and and there you go. And what's the big thing? Well, the big thing is really since 1975 when it was pointed out that the Charlie Indiana Alpha was infiltrated in all kinds of media and walks of life. It was not really um, circumvented. Instead, it's been embraced. So there is no true free Michael Echo Delta Indiana Alpha anymore. Okay, that doesn't exist. Um, no, I don't. I don't respect anything that gentleman has done, Mary Stinson, because if you know the horrors of Chernobyl and what it did to children, birth defects and everything else, and he knew about it. Um, no, he wasn't running but it was underneath his division as well as others. So, yeah, that's all part of the um, insanity, and having his own troops um, posted and work out of there is insane. Absolutely insane. That 25 miles you you can't be in. Period. Um, no, a face mask is not gonna. No, you have to have a full hazmat suit, and you're only allowed to be exposed to that for very short periods of time. Cesium 137 is extremely deadly. Plutonium 238, I think it's 1/10,000th of a gram. That is the human tolerance for an entire lifetime. Well, um, you know, the problem is that power corrupts ultimately. That's the problem. So, you look at these people who are in Congress for 30 something years and look at their bank sheets and look at what they own and look at what they owned going in and now look at what they owned and they're going to be retiring. I mean, nobody, you know, Pelosi is putting out a whole policy about all these homeless and everybody's got to take them in and everything else. Well, she owns a 12,000 square foot home in San Francisco. I mean, Barbara Streisand owns a huge mansion. I mean, I know for a fact there's like 2 or 300 rooms. So these people, who are great about telling you what they're going to do, what you should do, they're not very good at doing what they're telling you. And then you have to say to yourself, how did you afford all this stuff on a public salary? It's just like we used to have a representative, Charles Rango. He was a representative from the section of Harlem. Okay, it came out that he ended up buying and owning a 12 and a half or 13 or 14 million dollar um, big place on the Dominican Republic, and he didn't pay taxes on it, and that's what he got this so-called hand slapped and dismissed because. Excuse me, where did you get that money? You're only paid 150 at the time, $150,000 a year. And it's not like you have a hard work week. Where did you get all that money to afford such an incredible? And he also had housing in Harlem too. I mean, just and if you examine any of these leaders, my great uncle Joe was a senator, United States senator for 21 years. And yes, he was a Democrat, and they wanted him to run, and he didn't want to do it because he saw the corruption that was going on. And he was a JFK Democrat, which would be a Republican today. Um, I've always been a Republican or independent or whatever, conservative essentially. Yes and no, but like for example, I came from a rich family, all right? But I did not get any of that riches. It was stolen from me. I won't get into the details. To where that I was homeless, living out of my car in 1981. Okay. I was without any means. Well, really, a little bit before, really 79. Okay. Point is, I was without everything. Okay. And I used to live on $100 a month. I used to park my car at I-95. So I know what it's like. My wife does not know. Oh, she knows the history of this. I'm saying she doesn't understand and know what it's like to be, you know, where your stomach is growling and you want food, but you can't afford it. Okay. You have to wait to work on a plane or work on a gasoline tank in a plane so you can fuel your car. Other than that, you get on your bicycle and you're riding around. Okay. So for 4 weeks of my life, it was like that. I was blessed because I had skills and abilities that got me out of that. But what it did teach me, it taught me that money can be taken away from you at any given time. Anything you own can be taken away from you at any given time. What can't be taken away from you at any given time is knowledge. Knowledge, skills, and ability can't be taken away. Douglas Brunt. Last I heard, he was the last I saw him. He was in San Andres, which is part of Colombia, but it's really in um, the south. Well, not really south. It's just about. It's a little bit north of Panama, but it's in the western part of the Caribbean. It's an old pirates hangout. Okay. Um, who knows? There's so many islands, part of the Panama chain. If you have a good self-sufficient boat, um, as far as the weather window opening up, um, I don't know. I don't deal with the Pacific, but there's, who knows? It's a big. The world is. He's probably going back to what he knows. I have no idea. Like I said, the last thing I saw of him was down in San Andreas. I have no idea. He- because Jim Foreman, he's lying. Look back at his things, and he said to you that this was all Trump's plan. Trump was still president. This whole Biden thing was a falsehood and everything else. I specifically told you, no, it was a Charlie Oscar Utah Paul. The Romeo Oscar echoes were changed. January 20th, they were changed. They would not have been changed if President Trump was still president. Afghanistan would not have happened if President Trump was still president. The Ukraine would not have happened if President Trump was still president. Our oil prices would not have happened if President Trump was still president. Look back at his stuff. You'll see that I'm speaking the truth. Okay. And he changed his story. Once those things did not happen, he changed his story. I said that there were things that could happen after a specific period of time. That 18, that was gone. That's over. Um, I don't I don't know. I didn't see the show that you accuse. I can tell you this. I'm telling you the truth. I can also tell you that I have actual scientific fact, and I can also tell you that I have lots of military contacts. And I can tell you that I used to work for the Delta Oscar Delta, and I used to have a Sierra Alpha Paul. That's that's the truth. I'm not current now, but I know how they work. And I know the evil that's there. And I had a congressman who died, Jack Meekner, who saved my freaking ass way, way long ago. Which one? Douglas Brunt. That's four of them. One of them is a no good SOB admiral who was part of the problem back when I was in a specific program. Who I don't see him. Patriot 45 knows this. Some of the election laws have changed. We will not have a fair election until essentially ATM technology has been implemented. ATM technology is uncorruptible, can't be hacked. It works on a torn bill technology. The government needs to issue a card with your photo on it and your number, just like any, and they can put this out to bid to any bank. It gets $1 for one vote, your voting ballot. You go to a specific machine at the voting place designed like an ATM. You stick your card in, you put in your code. It takes a picture of you, just like your bank does. You then fill out, just like an ATM, but you fill out whatever you're voting for, whatever proposition you're voting for, whatever you're doing. It then gives you a review of it. It then you approve it and prints it. You look at it. Is it good? It's got sample on it. It's good. You print it again. This one is now your registered vote. It's registered electronically with that system. You then take this printed ballot, which is printed from the printer, from the machine. You walk across the floor to the present scanner that's there. Another person's there. Separate system. Takes your printed ballot, You put it into that scanner. It's then scanned. It's then counted. Number, everything is counted. They meet in a server. They have to mesh. They mesh, valid vote. They don't mesh, it's put aside for a hand count. That's how it needs to be done. You eliminate all the fakery. You eliminate everything. You could still have it mail-in ballots, but it's not mail-in. Instead, this device. Download an app. Go in with your ATM from your app. Again, it takes your picture. Again, it verifies your bio, your number, and everything else is taken. Transmits all that information. That's your mail-in so-called ballot. Look, folks, it's 2022. Okay, hello. Um, maybe some districts, Rick. Maybe some. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I can tell you this as a computer scientist, as a person who actually did work on the first systems for Citibank. Okay, torn bill works, and the reason why it works is because it's torn bill. All right, take a piece of paper and tear it in half, and you'll see that it only goes together one way. Yes, if you want to spend some $20 million, you can maybe hack an individual vote. You can't hack a group of them. You can only hack an individual one. So the reality is the security is so tight that you're basically costing too much money to make a fraud of it. And you do the same thing with the encryption of the servers at the places, and you do the same thing with the collection of the ballots, which means that electronic thing is both um, kept on the side in lock boxes, but also a customized printed sheet, which is a summary of all the votes at that specific voting location. So it's both sent electronically and then represented on a piece of paper. That can be done. Again, with the same two things. So that piece of paper finally gets its way to the main district. It has to go in. It has to verify with all the codes on the other side. You always keep two systems. So it can be done. It can be done. The Bible is not only what it is, but it's also code. Um, as a programmer, you're going to realize that Hebrew is mathematical. You're going to realize that 9/11 is actually written in the Bible and other things. Look up Bible code. Why? Because God knew everything. God knows everything. Essentially, if you don't believe in time travel, well, you're wrong. Because this whole section here, Revelations, whether God is showing him through an iPad or whether he's showing him by transporting him to that physical piece of time, doesn't matter. The information is crossing the barriers of those, you know, millenniums. So time travel exists, but it only happens once, which means we might see it's possible again. If we're here for the second coming of our Lord, Yeah, there's 4 of them. I can't get into the details of names, not on this platform. But if you go to my Odyssey page, I've gone into specific things to show you what is going on. The other one is Telegraph, for example. That's fraud, big time. That's what's known as called the Trojan horse. I don't know what she retracted. I didn't see it. What site? What site am I supposed to say? It's Odyssey. I please join my Patreon page. Patreon.com. My channel is Ball Omni. Go to my Patreon site. As far as the time travel goes, who's to know? Since it's incorporated, um, who's to know? And thus, it's still nothing's changed. It's always been. If I, for example, built a time machine and I went back in time, I always built a time machine and went back in time. Always. Think about it. I always went to that specific slice of the meatloaf, and I've always done whatever I did. There's physical proof that the future already exists and the past already exists. There is no such thing as really a time. It's specifically just the location in that so-called meatloaf. Yes, I know it's 18 dimensional meatloaf. I get it. But these people here cannot understand. They can understand the analogy of a physical meatloaf. And a fact that any slice of that meatloaf, any slice is a universe onto itself when you think about it. It has Jupiter and Saturn and all the stars and everything. No, my Patreon site is patreon.com. My channel name is Bull Omni. Okay. It's on some of my other videos. That's the only support I get. I don't get any support. My Patreon site is Bull Omni. Okay. Right now, I only have 121 patrons. That's it. That's all I get. Okay. And by the way, they took me off of Patreon. Again, my wife had to fight them. As I was discussing with Rick, there is not too much you can ask from our Father in heaven. There is not too much you can repent to our Father in heaven. For remember, He is only perfect. God is perfect. We can try to attain, but the judgment should always be on ourselves. How were you yesterday? Are you better today? What do you need to improve? Those are the things you need to work on. Okay. You can't go through life without asking God for God's help. You can't go through life without asking and having the Holy Spirit in your path. The Holy Spirit is going to help you and guide you through these things and make you a better and greater person for it. It's going to make your life more pleasurable. It's going to make your life less the bridges to adversity. You're going to say, well, why do we have adversity? Why do we have, if there's a God, why do we have all this stuff? Why? Okay. First of all, adversity brings you closer and brings you down onto your needs for God for help. That's number one. Number two, does it not, that bump in the road, does it not give you means and cause to do things and reinvent yourself, come up with a better way of doing something to conquer that bump, to overcome that obstacle? Those bumps that we get in life, no matter what they are, you'll find out that they are used for our benefit. Okay. Came back, I was fully paralyzed on my right side. I couldn't talk. I had no sense of speech. I couldn't remember anything from 1 minute to the next. I had to overcome that. Okay. And I'm better today for it. No question. The Lord restored all my intellect. He restored everything that I have. You can't turn away from sin without God's help. Whatever your addiction, whatever your sin is, so please, Jesus, please, God, please forgive me in your son's name, please. That's all fine and good. But until you turn and invite God for help, please, God, can you please help me not get that stupid bagel with butter on it, please? Please help me turn away that food, please. You have to ask. You have to receive. It's okay if you fail and you fall. The thing is to repent and try again. I am a documentary of miracles that our Lord and Savior has given freely to me out of his pure love of creating me and bringing me back to life. I'm no longer paralyzed. I can see perfectly. I do no longer have an aneurysm, which was documented. It's gone. I now have my full intellect. It's a fallen, dear Joseph, Mayor, all these people here, listen to me. What did Christ say? What it was written? This people that were dead, he was commenting on, they did not die for their sins. It wasn't because of their sins that killed them. It was because they're living in a fallen world. Thus, you must learn how to die before you can truly live. That means you have to accept the Lord Jesus Christ as our Savior, God as our Creator, His Son, and His love for us and salvation of our sins, and then go from there. Start with John, then go to Matthew. You'll see the emotional John. Then you'll see the analytical tax collector of Matthew. Then read anything you want, whatever moves you. Get those two read and studied, and you'll hear Jesus and just speak out from the book. Now, there are problems, like I said. Do you think our military should be focused on 101 now? 100, I think it's 101. I'm not sure. Okay, I do not know. I'm not current on this. Sexes, I do not know. Okay, I'm not current. Do you think that they should be focused and that should be a priority? Considerations of that should be a priority. Does that make our military more lethal? Does that make them a better fighting force? Is getting 35 pounds of drugs dropped to them on parachute, along with other supplies as food and ammo. Do you think they will want that on a hilltop if they're isolated in barrel and or do you want or do you would you rather have 35 pounds of food, 35 pounds of ammo instead of those drugs? Does that make you more lethal? I mean, these are scientific statistical fact that if you look at battles, that divisions have been pinned down, they've been isolated, they've been unable to be have gotten to, they've been on their own. And what is the most important thing to those people when they're on their own in the midst of hostile forces? Do you think it's maintaining their hormone levels for their transition? Or a bullet to be put into a gun to defend themselves, or an MRE? These are logical questions. If you're on a submarine and you're away, they don't know where you are. They don't know. What limits the submarine is logistically food. It's a nuclear submarine. So the only thing that limits it and where it goes and what it does is food. If they're making space for other types of medical supplies and other types of things, that has to detract and come from space for a bag of sugar, space for a bag of flour, space for penicillin, space for anything. A person trying to land on a United States naval carrier that's moving at 35 knots in rough seas is trying to land an aircraft going 120 miles an hour and put his or her head through basically a 4-foot window. It doesn't matter what color, creed, whatever that person is. They must be the best person with the best skill set to land the $135 million aircraft on a boat with 100 people on deck who could be seriously injured if that person deviates as little as 18 inches the wrong way. Those are facts. They have nothing to do with sex. They have nothing to do with color. They have nothing to do with anything. They have to do with specific skills and intellect and a physical ability to do the job, period. That's not what this administration has done. That's why it has been the greatest moment of resignation out from very qualified officers in our military, very qualified enlisted personnel too, very qualified police across this country. Crime in this country is at historic record levels. Why? Because of all the gun control and because of all the rules that were made on cops and because of all the district attorneys that didn't prosecute crimes and have bail. Those are the undeniable facts. That's why it's unsafe to be here on Long Island right now. That's why it's unsafe to go on the Long Island Railroad, to go on the subway. You can't defend yourself. You can't have a gun. And even if I was going to my range and I could carry my gun, I can only have 7 rounds in my gun. Only 7 rounds. You think the MS-13 people have only 7 rounds in their Glock 19s that are already illegal? You really think if I go to Wyandanch and I go to my gun range on Keene Avenue, that those people in groups that are selling drugs and all kinds of things, they're with their subautomatic machine guns, they only have 7 rounds in those illegal machine guns because it's illegal. This is what the New York Safe Act has done. It has disarmed the honest person. It has done nothing to keep guns away from the criminals. If anything, it's turned guns and ammunition into yet another business besides drugs for these cartels. At this particular point in time, it's gotten so they are so mocking God that, and the subject has gotten to as much trying to divide and conquer as possible. This country was formed with a multi race, multi sex, multi everything. To be an American was to be one thing, a human being who wanted freedom from the tyranny of the world. It didn't matter if you were Irish, it didn't matter if you were Chinese, it didn't matter what you were. It all meant that you wanted freedom. The 14th Amendment specifically states and specifically makes everything that the Biden administration is doing unconstitutional by putting just a black person before the Supreme Court and making that judgment. That is unconstitutional and it totally insults black people. What you're saying is without your help, they're not good enough to be in there. And that is beyond false. And that's the way Democrats see it. Democrats are the racists. The left is the racist, not us. I don't care. All I care about is the person and what's inside, period. I don't care if they got an arm coming out of their chest, if they're paisley, if they twirl around when the moon comes out. I don't care. That person might be have an IQ of 235 for all I know. They may be a person that understands the Constitution or whatever better than anybody. I don't care. That is the person that deserves to be in the Supreme Court. Not because of their race, sex, or whatever. No. But because of what they are. Period. What they've done. Case in point, you can't just say with a delusion, go to the captain of the Carl Vinson and say, yeah, I know how to fly this F-35, and yeah, no problem. Because today I woke up and I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and I wanted to be all that. Now, all that is a lie. All that is not true. But because this person believes it, you're going to put him in that cockpit and endanger 6,000 people? Would they do this? They would not do this. I do not see the difference. You either have reality and scientific fact. By the way, it's scientific fact. That means I want to see a white paper that tells me exactly a repeatable process to give me a specific sex, whatever the sex number is, to where that I can take it and test that specific value again and again and again. And just like this element, come up with a process that shows that it is silver again and again and again with independent testing. You can't do it with this other stuff. I only have 10 minutes left on this broadcast. But I can't say enough for the people who come and see me every single week. I can't say enough for my Patreon people. I can't say enough for people who want to share this. And I can't say enough for the fact that, like I said, I will tell you the truth. The one big truth that bar anything is that God loves you. That's it. There is nothing. Think about if you're a parent. I love it when my sons come to me and ask me for whatever it is. I love it. I can't do enough because I get enjoyment out of that. I do. I get enjoy. I love it when my grandson takes my hand and he asks me for help. Please, Grandpa, show me how to do this. I love it. Do you think your Father in heaven loves that? Not only that, of course he does. Of course he does. That's why he's done everything he's done. And this methodology of this life that we live is the best way to move us and educate us and get us ready for the next position and next level of our journey. When we die, we will die. One thing that is for sure, you are going to die. So get ready for that death so you can truly live. If you're prepared for death, then you are not afraid to die. And if you're not afraid to die, you can then truly live. Now, that doesn't mean you go out and tempt fate. It means that you can embrace life what it is. This country was taken over in 1905, really 1903. It's one of the main reasons why the Titanic went down. And that is something that I will leave you with. If you go to my Odyssey page, you will see a full thing of why that is and what the real, true strings behind everything. Strings that funded both sides of the war in every war. I want to give you all a blessed thing. Again, I will be gone for about 2 weeks. I'll try to get in touch. I might be able to get in touch. I might have a show. I might. I don't know if I will. But I want you to have you try to fill your tank up every day. Try to get as much food, consumables as you can. It's unfortunately going to get worse before it gets better. And Biden has chosen this person. Anyway, I want you guys to be blessed. I want you to think about welcoming Jesus into your life, reading the Bible, getting with a good Bible based church, and going to some kind of Bible study. But also think about the science and think about facts. Think about How do you create life when entropy wants it not? Not to be organized, not to be saving energy, doing work, constructing complex. The more complex life is, the more it fights entropy, the more organized. There's proof of God's hand everywhere. And think about all the other life and all the other things that are out there that He's made, all the wonders that He's made that are just waiting for us. And the sin is not getting off our butts, stopping these idiots, and constructing stuff and get things going. Anyway, God bless. May you guys have a great, blessed weekend. I want you guys, I love you guys. Thank you very much. God bless.